guys, happy Thursday and welcome to Tea Time with me, Narita. So I hope you guys have your teas, your coffee, whatever it is, and come and enjoy or join in the conversation. And yeah, let me know how your Thursday is going, your week is going. I've had a pretty full, hey Michelle, Mitchie, hey, how are you? Welcome to Tea Time Thursday. So I've had a pretty full, busy Thursday, and I literally just got home 10 minutes ago, and I'm like, should I cancel tea time? And I changed, and I was like, nope, I'm not canceling tea time. So here we are, and I got my little tea on the way. So I miss you too. Hey Alex, just got my tea. Woo woo! Yay! Welcome. Okay, so before I start my tea time, which I'm glad I was able to join, it's like the cherry on the top of my busy, chaotic Thursday. I wanted to read a little prayer because I opened it up and it was the first prayer that came up, and it was a reminder of even my day. It started off a little rocky, and I think it's because I went to bed kind of a little annoyed with work yesterday. The system froze, and so I woke up with the same energy. Hey Ephraim, hey Tony, welcome. So let me read this, and if you're religious or not religious, take it however your heart takes it, with an open heart, open mind, with your own interpretation, and kind of reflect about, your day or your week. And if you want to add on the comment, you're more than welcome to join. I would love to hear it, what comes up for you. So you can find joy in the most unexpected places. However, this requires effort, searching for the good and refusing to let your natural responses blind you to what is there. I will help you respond in a supernatural way, giving you eyes that see beyond the oblivious and discover treasure hidden in your troubles. Simply ask me. Living joyously is a choice. Since you inhabit such a sinful, broken world, you must choose gladness many times daily. This is especially true during difficult times. When something happens that breaks the pattern of comfort and happiness in your life, you are being put to the test. Such trials can both prove and strengthen your faith, which is much more precious than gold. I am training you to consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds. I made the agonizing choice to endure the cross for the joy set before me, the eternal pleasure of bringing my followers to glory. Choose joy, beloved, by fixing your eyes on me and looking for treasures in your trials. So the way that I took this is, what was joyful or what was a blessing today during my day, even when I couldn't see it, or even when I was involved in the chaotic busyness of the day. So if you want to share how you interpret it, or how you take it, or the joy of your day, put it down in the comment box. So hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about jobs. And before I move on to that, let me share my little joys. So the joys for me today was seeing my clients at my part-time job and working with them and being hands-on and just having a conversation with them. Another one is my coworkers, which is such a good topic to talk about jobs and how I'm sharing about my job because I'm so grateful for it. And the topic today is jobs. And I also had my own therapy today. So super grateful that I was able to squeeze that in during my lunch, and it became kind of a little break for me, like a napping period in a way from the whole day. And being here, it's always a pleasure to be on tea time and to share and connect and to drink some tea. So today the topic is jobs, and I wanted to specifically talk about when jobs are no longer fulfilling and when jobs become that extra push where we have to kind of drag our feet into just simply getting up and showing up to work. And also like talking about like the fear that comes with it and the doubt and the insecurity that comes with it, because I'm sure many of us can relate. We've had jobs where they provide that safety net, they provide that stability, that consistency, and even when it becomes unfulfilling or when it becomes uncomfortable, when we simply don't want to be there, it's so hard for us to leave. And getting in touch with that and like just talking out loud, reflecting, and if you had experiences like that, you're more than welcome to share right now or after when you're watching it. And I wanted to share my own personal experience because I've had a couple of jobs where they've been consistent, they've been reliable, they've been so close to home, and where the boss has been lenient and open and working with my own personal life, and yet I felt unfulfilled towards the end of that job. And hearing, what parents have to say and friends, it felt scary to walk away. But I've also done it where I can see the fruition of what happens when you do it and when you become super intentional with what you want, and where you still kind of go within the uncertainty of trying to find a new one, or as you're making the transition and the uncomfortableness with it, but how it comes through. It totally comes through. So let me know if any of you guys can relate with maybe an emoji. But so let me tell you about my first job, which was a hard job to leave, and this is the job that I wanted to share on a reel, but I'm like, let me make a tea time about this. And one of the first jobs that I had while in college which was a really good job, was an office job, was a bank job. And I worked there all throughout college, and the last couple of years of college, actually, like 5 years. Well, actually, no, all throughout college. I worked there all throughout college, and towards the last year or so, it was starting to feel unfulfilling, and it was starting to feel like the space of feeling stuck because there was no more room to grow. And it was a small office. And my boss was super awesome, super open. He valued education, and he had his own kids, and he gave me like bonuses while I was like at school traveling abroad, and there were surprises here and there, but it also felt a little bit like a family unit. So it was really hard to let go of that job. But I graduated university and I stayed there for a couple of months, and at some point I had this idea of like wanting to move abroad, and I didn't jump on it right away, but I also knew that I wanted to leave this job. And there was a point in that season where I was a little stuck, like, okay, what do? I don't want to be here anymore, but I'm not ready to go abroad. I have my car payment to pay off. Luckily I was still at home with my parents, but there was a lot of uncertainty. Hey, Annie! But there's a lot of uncertainty. And in that space, I remember thinking, like, it's just time for me to go. Like, at that point, it was such a drag to get up. And I'm sure many of you guys maybe have felt this, where at some point, when you know it's ready to go, you just don't give a fuck anymore. And I was at that point where I didn't care if I was late, I didn't care if I clocked in for lunch late, and I felt like that was really disrespectful to my boss and the company. So I talked to my dad, and I was, how are you, Annie? And I talked to my dad, and, like trying to look for some kind of like advice or some kind of input, and the first thing he said to me was, you're never going to find a job like that. And what came out of my mouth intuitively was, it's not the job, it's me. And he didn't say anything, I didn't say anything, so we kind of just went our separate ways. But it made me think about, like, okay, yes, he's a great boss, and it's a great job, and again, like, there's consistency, like there's freedom, there's, you name it, like the whole list, right? But it wasn't so much like the job, it was my own energy with how I was looking for jobs and my own intention with it. Because even working at the bank job was manifested as I was in college, and I didn't even know about it. I don't even think I knew exactly what manifestation or intention really was. But I remember thinking, like, I don't want to work, and not to say that there's anything bad with it, but for me, I did not want to work at a fast food place, at a restaurant. I didn't want to work, like, I really wanted an office job, and also to gain some kind of office experience for, like, after college. So I didn't, like, journal, like, I didn't do anything with it. It's just I knew what I wanted, and this was a manifestation of it. And when I talked to my dad, it was just, like, this intuitive feeling of, wait, like, it's not the job, it's me. And I stayed maybe, like, a couple more months so I could pay off my car. And I did. Like, I paid off my car, and... Ooh, do you hear that? Okay, the car. So I paid off my car, and without even knowing it, as I quit my job, I also created space to get more clear about moving abroad. And I share this a lot in my reels and with friends, and I try to remind myself a lot of this, where when we're trying to make choices, where we're at, we can only see this much. We can only figure it out this much. We can only find X amount of certainty until we get to that space, and then it becomes like this. You can't see it. It becomes bigger. And that's exactly what me quitting this job did. And so at the moment, I was still like, I want to go abroad. I don't know how to do it. I'm doing research. I'm trying to get grounded with it. Reading a book here and there and working on the reflection with it. I quit, and the space for me to go became more available, and it became more possible, and it became more doable. And it happened. I ended up leaving like 6 months later. And yeah, like, it's a point of remembrance of when we leave jobs, how yes, it might feel scary, there might be fear, there might be doubt, but the moment that we leave it to find something more intentional, to find something more fulfilling, there's a whole other path that opens up that we may not even realize it in the moment, as we're stuck on the thoughts of what if this and what if that and XYZ, the story of like quitting. And yeah, like, I'm so grateful, right? I'm still grateful for this job. I'm still grateful for the boss, for the employees, but I'm also so grateful that I quit, because I wouldn't have gone through my own adventures or exploration or get more clear on what I wanted to do in terms of work. So, and I have more stories about work. So let me get some tea. So, going abroad, it's like a little story of timeline, and I think it's going to lead up to where I'm at now. But going abroad, it was something similar too, and again, I didn't really become conscious of it, or I wasn't really fully aware. But going abroad, I did the certificate to teach, to teach English and to be able to teach and work abroad. And I remember getting an apartment, and that's like a whole other story, right? But I remember getting an Airbnb actually, and wanting it to be my apartment. And I remember calculating like the finances and how much it would be and how much I would need. And I still remember sitting on the little table next to the window and writing down what I wanted. What did I want? I want to find a full-time position as a teacher, hopefully maybe not teaching just English, but teaching. I want to get paid $1,900, or no, I actually put $2,000. But I want to get paid $2,000 a month, because $2,000 is totally livable abroad. I know here it's a little bit more hard, but abroad, totally comfortable living, and even somewhat luxurious living with just $2,000. And writing down, like 9 to 5, full-time, stable, and I'm sure I put some other stuff too. And yeah, I remember like the school that I went to, or the little course that I took, they helped you find a job. And that was like part of my own stability or my own comfort of like going, because I knew there was going to be a secure job. But once I was out there, again, the perspective went from like this to this, where I couldn't have even imagined being here trying to look for a job, because I didn't know exactly how to maneuver in a different country just yet. But once I was there, it's like, I learned there's, like an expat group on Facebook, actually a couple of them. There's like Vietnamese teaching jobs here and there, word of mouth, or like you find other people and they're hiring at their schools. So it just becomes a lot broader. Is that even a word? Broader? More broad. And that's what happened. Like, I went on that Facebook expat group and I started looking for jobs. And I found one. So I found one that was exactly what I was looking for. And I'll never forget going into the interview and thinking like, oh my God, this is what I just like wrote down a couple weeks ago, and being afraid of not getting it. But even in that space, it was also kind of work of letting go of the fear and not being so desperate, because even in that moment of desperation, it could just not happen. Or in the moment of like having high expectations or, high expectations, it might not happen. So I went to the interview, that happened, and within the week I was called to go back, and I signed a contract for a year and was there before the COVID pandemic hit. And I taught first grade and second grade, and super, super fucking grateful. And they didn't pay me $2,000, they paid me $1,800 a month, which was still doable. It was like $200 off, but I still made that by picking up another gig on the weekends, which was teaching public speaking, which is something that I love. So yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with like the intention and what you want, and really having faith or trusting that whatever you believe in, God, the universe, higher power, the world, energy, that it's coming to you. And there's a moment between those spaces, right? Like leaving my bank job and looking for this other job in Vietnam, where there is a moment of fear because you have no job, you have no steady income, or as you're making the transition, there's fear and there's desperation. It's like, how am I going to do it? But it's like in that moment, it's getting grounded and going back to having or gaining that faith or that trust in yourself and in the universe or God, and letting that carry you through. I hope I'm making sense. Does that make sense? Michelle said, I always wondered why you went abroad, and I thought it was so cool. Oh, I went abroad just for adventure. I went to Italy during college to study abroad, and I love journaling. Totally love journaling. And when I was abroad, I wrote down like just my curiosities, and one of the things that I was curious about was, what would it be like to live in a whole other country for a whole year? And I kind of forgot about it because I kind of got wrapped around like school and money and finances and stuff like that. And when I graduated university, I went back to that notebook, trying to figure out like, what should I do next? Like, should I get my master's or should I go back to law school? And I decided to take a year off. And during that year off, I went through that notebook, and there was like that journal entry of like, what would it be like to live abroad for a year? And I was like, done. Totally gonna fucking do that. And then I started doing research on it. So yeah, I just literally went just out of curiosity and adventure and see what it was like. And now it's still a desire in my heart of just moving abroad again. But yeah. So then being back here, it's the same space, because right now I have this part-time job as a life coach to little kids, to young ones, and it's challenging, but it's so fulfilling, and I'm so grateful for it. And with this job, I could really feel how the job that you have can really add gratitude and joy, and can really add to your life. And it makes sense, right? Like when we don't like our jobs and when we're struggling to be peaceful at our jobs, it does have an effect on us emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically sometimes. And it has the same effect when we love our jobs. And let me know if you guys can relate to that one. So it has like the same effect. And of course, like COVID hit, right? And I came back and I was working on life coaching, which I'm still working on now. And I was working on life coaching and trying to build that up and get more clarity, and I was taking classes here and there, and I had life coaching clients that I was coaching for free, gaining the experience and trying to see this is what I really wanted. And I do. I love life coaching, and I love being there in that space with others. And it's crazy because my position within my own business as a life coach helped me get this job with little kids as a life coach. So it's so cool how just like things work out, or how things are meant to be, or how certain stuff, you don't really think about it too much, but it's actually creating a whole other path or a whole other open door somewhere in the near future. So this job, right? I was really hesitant with looking for a job, for looking for a 9-to-5 back into the system. I have my own judgments or my own beliefs with that, and my own perspective with me going into a workforce, like the corporation workforce. And there was that space of, well, I need to, not that I need to, but I also want to look for a job, and I want to have that like stability and that income, but I also was not willing to just get any job. And before that, actually, I did work at a restaurant for like a month, and that's what kind of reminded me of that intention or the manifestation. And I was also struggling with like where I was going to go next. I had this idea of going to Oregon, which also didn't happen, which is totally okay. But I was struggling with that a little bit. Like, am I going to leave? Am I not going to leave? If I leave, what's the point of finding a job? But there came a point where it's like, no, I'm going to find a job because I'm here anyways. The moment when I decide to leave, I'll figure it out then. So yeah, I got super intentional, and my intention with looking for a job was that it was only going to add or to help what I'm already doing now. And like I mentioned before, like I love this space of like life coaching and being a guide and being a meditation teacher. It's seriously such an honor and like a privilege, and it feels really good in my own being, and it feels really nice to hear other people also going through like their own growth and their own change and their own realizations. So I told myself, like, I'm only gonna get a job that aligns with what I'm already doing. And same space, right? Like the uncertainty was there, the uncomfortableness, that little bit of desperation of getting interviews, and some of them would call me back, some of them won't, some of them offered, and it didn't feel right, but it was that space of, should I accept, should I not accept, like, am I gonna miss out? And it was always going back to, does it feel good? How does this interview feel? How does this company feel? Does it look like I will be happy there? Does it look like my intention will be fulfilled? And yeah, it's also that part of saying no and trusting, even with the fear, even with the doubt, even with the uncertainty, is like, nope, like, thank you for the call, no, thank you for the interview, but I'm gonna pass, and going back right at it. And I was on the job search, I think for like maybe 2 months, and the universe just, God just worked it out, and I was able to find this job. And a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh, I'm so grateful. And then I got reminded of like, oh, I'm grateful. And that gratitude comes through because it was intentional. And because I didn't just say yes to any job because I wanted the money or because it gave me consistency or stableness, which is a good reminder for what I'm going through right now and like what I'm deciding to do next. But yeah. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Do you guys have any questions or any comments? So the core of this tea time, the message of this tea time, talking out loud, right? Is like, we're gonna have jobs that are gonna feel unfulfilling at some point, that are not gonna, it's not gonna align with who we are becoming. Because I also have come to realize how whatever job we have, it's also a reflection of where we're at. And at some point, it's time to move on, or it's time to change career paths, change jobs. It's time to move. And in that space, it's getting intentional with what you want and getting grounded, and as well as gaining that faith and that trust to say no, or to hear the no that you didn't get hired, or to say no that doesn't align with how I'm feeling or what I want. It's that trust or that faith that it's coming. Universal wise, God wise, energetically, that whatever it is that you want, write it down and be super specific with it. And kind of like how sometimes you hear about relationships and your non-negotiables, having non-negotiables when it comes to jobs and sticking with it no matter what. And of course, like sometimes you can, like, okay, this job doesn't offer this that I want. And if you're okay with it, that's totally okay. But if you're not, say no and keep looking. But yeah, so yes. Yeah. And just a little reminder too that it's like whatever job you have, it does add to your life. It can either add to your life or take away. And it's like with anything in life, like friendships, relationships, you want to add more to your life, more joy, more gratitude, more lightness, and more spontaneous, whatever it is, you want to add to your life, not take away. So yeah, Michelle said, great advice, thank you for this. Thank you for showing up, Michelle. I miss you and I hope to see you soon. I keep thinking about, I plan on going to Texas and it hasn't happened yet. But hopefully soon. Yeah. And of course, if anything else pops up, I'm sure I'll share it. Like, I'll make a reel about it. And also, like, another thing too is, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Because the people that are in your life, your partners, your family, your friends, they are more likely going to help you, especially if you're trying to make some kind of transition in your life. I asked my parents for help as I was making these transitions, and it came through. And same thing, right? Like, always say no if you can't hang out with friends, or if finances are tight for a little bit. Like, it's worth it. Sometimes there's, like, I don't want to say sacrifices. I don't like to use the word sacrifices, but sometimes there are certain things or certain uncomfortable situations that you have to go through for it to happen. Again, like finances. Like, I know on my end, as I was looking through these jobs, like, I was super tight. And even in Vietnam, when I was looking for this job and super intentional, money was running low. I hadn't been working for months at that point, maybe like I think for a year almost. In money, I think I had maybe like less than $100 in my bank account. And I remember asking one of my friends that I had made in Vietnam, which asking for money, it's totally a no-no for me. But I remember asking my friend, because I didn't want to like call back home, right? But I didn't want them to worry about me. But I remember asking my friend, like, hey, can I borrow? I don't even know how much it was until I find this job, until I get my first paycheck. And she said, yeah. She said, yeah. And like the first paycheck that I got, like I gave her that and then some, kind of like an interest fee on my own part. But don't be afraid to ask for help. And if there's anything else that I can provide, talk, or whatever, let me know. So Michelle said, yes, come. I always have a place for you to crash when you visit. Yay! I'll text you. I'll text Fahad to you. I'm gonna do a group message. I miss you guys. I miss you guys a lot. Okay, so much love, guys. I hope you guys have a beautiful Thursday, and this is a cherry on the top. I'm so happy that I showed up because, again, I was so close to canceling. Just got home, like, not too long ago. But hey, stay consistent, keep showing up, and keep loving. So much love, guys. Kisses. Bye.